It is nice, the online streaming we have available here. I got to listen to the news at home. I was in St. Thomas for 7-8 days there, and it was just nice to just check in now and again and see what's going on in the news. Streaming online, nice clean feed, and you can hear us anywhere in the world. WHAS.com, listen live, or get those apps for your BlackBerry, Android, iPhone, and so forth at iHeartRadio.com. So there's all kinds of ways to stay in touch with us no matter where you go in the world, ladies and gentlemen. We're always here for you. Sarah, you're not on yet. It's time for Dr. Eli. Dr. Eli Karam in the studio. Good to see you again, Eli.
Good to see you, my friend.
Sorry about the horse.
Right.
If there are any droppings, I'll make sure those are cleaned up. I don't want a $1,000 fine out of it, that's for sure. Good to see you, and happy summertime. You're raising 2 young kids, aren't you?
Yes, almost 3, and one just turned 1 last month, my daughter. So time flies.
You're having
Keep
fun.
me busy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, have fun when they're at that age, and the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old, and you got to keep their dance card filled all through the summertime.
There's never a dull moment, my friend.
Dr. Eli Karam with the University of Louisville Kent School of Social Work. He's the president-elect of Kentucky Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, and website elikaram.com. Karam is spelled Karam. Hey, the last time you were here, we were talking about May-December romances, but we didn't. That was about Hefner and the failed marriage or whatever. What about the 16-year-old country singer Courtney Stodden and the guy Doug Hutchison, who's some B actor or whatever? He's 51, and he just happens to have her signed to his record label. How does a relationship like that work? Anyway, a man is in his 50s and she is supposedly 16, although all of us on the show have looked at her on video and think she's 22.
Yeah. Well,
nonetheless,
that's an extreme example, but I'd say in general, these relationships where there's a large age gap, I mean, you're trading in many cases, and again, we stereotypically think of this as older male, younger female, but the rise of the cougar phenomenon has changed all of that. But when we think of it, it's a trade of kind of wealth, assets from the man for kind of physical resources or the beauty for the female. So it's kind of a social exchange, as you will. But there's a host of issues involved with that. I mean, we're talking in this situation, this extreme example you're talking about. I mean, how many different generations? About 3 generations between these two.
What in the world could they talk about?
Exactly. And maybe writing a country song, But other than that, I think one of the biggest factors in these May-December relationships you're dealing with is a generational gap and just like a whole different point of reference. You're talking about, TV shows you watched, and she's talking about,
right,
what she watched a couple years ago on the Disney Channel.
16 and pregnant.
That's right, TV, right.
But they say, don't judge us. You don't understand true love and so forth. And I'm asking you as a professional, is that possible to make a connection, or is it pervish? I mean, just for lack of a better expression, it just seems like someone who is older and wiser, supposedly wiser, but manipulating a young brain that's not fully developed.
Sure, and when you talk about teenagers with older people, men or women, I think you have to think of some way there is some manipulation or some idealizing by the younger person or the older person. And many times those relationships starts in kind of close mentoring relationships, like this guy maybe and the singer, where there's some shared activity or some really unusual circumstance that binds them together, like entertainers or something that is out of the realm. And we also see this a lot, as what made news, last month here with the teacher and the student. And these
I was going to get to that next.
Relationships. These really close relationships where a lot of people spend time together, and over time, again, you develop infatuations and idealizing. But I think in general, when you're talking about older people with a significant age gap, I don't think it's necessarily a pathological or bad thing. I mean, there are hurdles to navigate, though, with these generational gaps, these different interests, different reference points. And, so when I'm working, marriage and family therapist are working with couples with a large age gap, that's the question you got to ask. Okay, what brought you guys together? And it might be a good fit now. You might have these common interests, but let's project, because you're not getting into this. Hopefully this is for the long time. So what's going to happen? You're 30 now. He's 50. What's going to happen?
No, in this case here, a 35-year difference.
Yeah.
So someday he's going to be 90 and she's going to be 55.
Right.
And that makes no sense.
And when people start talking about making, with a large gap like that, a commitment to each other over the long haul, you have to project them in the future. What's that's going to look like? Okay, how are you going to deal with kids? And for some men, it's not an issue, as especially with assisted reproductive technology, things like that. Men are having, and women too, they're delaying childbirth, they're having them older. But if you have a huge gap, I know my father was 49 years old when he had my brother and myself, and that was 30 plus years ago, and that seemed like a big gap. And there were many rewards in that as a child, but there was also some negatives of having an older parent. So I'm not saying don't be an older parent or don't do that. I'm saying if you are with someone, you're about to make a lifelong commitment to someone with a significant age gap, you got to consider these factors. You got to project in the future. You got to think about kids. You got to think about finances. You also got to think about what you're marrying someone in this case that might be older than your father, which is just a weird dynamic.
True that. That's exactly what was the case there. I think the father of this kid is significantly younger than the man she married.
Right. And it's a whole different set of life experiences. That being said, when people get together, what you look for is a goodness of fit. There's this myth, right, that opposites attract. It's really more birds of a feather flock together, Terry. We know it from, years and years of social psychological research. We're looking for personality characteristics. We're looking for same things like socioeconomic status, education level. Those are the biggest predictors that we're looking for a goodness of fit on.
Well, someone who's wealthy like Michael Douglas, he's having a baby with Catherine Zeta-Jones, or did. I mean, a few years ago. They have the wherewithal to take care of things and have people around her. But with a vast age difference and a life expectancy to end early in a child's life, you would think people would consider the financial ramifications of this too.
Sure.
That they need someone, a breadwinner or multiple breadwinners, to help them move along the pipeline of life.
Yeah, you get it.
So there's some selfishness there you got to think about.
Sure, it's a very different picture if, this person, even if you're younger, you're in your 20s, you meet someone in your 40s or older, but you've already started your career, you have a plan going, versus if you're without a plan, kind of rudderless, looking for someone to save you or give you some type of life. That's not a good reason to get married.
I do want to jump over to this other topic. We only have about a minute for it here, but we're going to do another segment in a few. When these teacher things come up, and it's an older woman and a younger kid, what is going on there, really? Is this somebody just trying to escape their life? I mean, they know that's a student, a kid. That's no one they're going to be with forever, except for that Letourneau story years ago.
Right. That was the archetype that primed all these other relationships. I think it's a clear boundary violation where people are, teachers obviously get into the field for wanting to help children, educate them, but there's a clear boundary violation where you've lost sight of really what's going on, or you're missing something in your own life, and you take a really captive audience and someone that might idealize you for various reasons, including physically, especially teenagers, and it's a product of again, boundaries getting violated.
But if you're a wife and a mother, you have your own family, and you walk away from them for some high school student, and you're in your 30s or upper 30s, what?
Yeah. It's
I mean, that sends several other people's lives into a bizarre orbit, and they can never reclaim their place either. I mean, it's an incredibly selfish move.
Incredibly selfish move, as you said. It's an impact that, in the moment you're thinking of this, exchange, this physical exchange between the teacher and the student, but it has a ripple effect. It affects lives. It ruins, reputations. These women that do this will never teach again. It'll cause shame on their family if they're married, their extended family members. It's really an unfortunate event.
Is that a mental? I don't want to say mental illness, but is it an aberration, a mental aberration that would make someone make decisions like that, where they're going to blow up their whole family for somebody that's ridiculously out of their reach?
Lots of people get caught up in these illicit affairs are very inappropriate with age differences. This narcissistic need to be validated. So it's not as much about the youngster they're with. It's that they're being found attractive. They're being desired in that way. And if you're not getting that in other parts of your life, it becomes very seductive and intoxicating almost, which leads to these boundary violations.
Which then that's going to end too. And whatever the relationship, the newness of somebody telling you how great you are.
Sure.
Dr. Eli Karam, his website is elikaram.com. We're coming back. We're going to talk about couples and money in just a few minutes.